Burundi, the heartbeat of Africa. Nestled among the rolling hills of East Africa, there's a place that doesn't always make headlines. It's not the biggest, flashiest, or loudest on the continent, but trust me, it's got a rhythm all its own. It's Burundi, folks, and it's about time we tuned in. Imagine a landlocked nation about the size of Maryland if you're American, or Belgium if you prefer waffles with your geography. Now picture lush green landscapes, the majestic Nile River whispering ancient secrets, and vibrant markets bursting with life. That's Burundi in a nutshell. Small but mighty, like a shot of espresso to wake up your curiosity. This place is old, like really old. We're talking centuries of history, with stories that'd make your grandma's tales sound like yesterday's news. It's a land where kingdoms rose and fell, where traditions have stood the test of time, and where the spirit of resilience echoes in every drumbeat. So buckle up, my friends, as we take a trip through time, exploring the captivating story of Burundi. From ancient kingdoms to modern-day struggles and triumphs, we're about to uncover the heart and soul of this often overlooked nation. Get ready to be surprised, intrigued, and maybe even inspired. Burundi awaits. Now let's rewind the clock way back, like way back, to a time before Twitter feuds and instant coffee. Imagine a world where the rhythm of life was dictated by the rising and setting of the sun, and the most pressing notifications came from the sounds of nature. We're talking about the dawn of Burundi's history, a period shrouded in mist and legend. This was a time when stories were passed down through generations, and the line between myth and reality was often blurred. For centuries, the area around Lake Tanganyika was a melting pot of cultures and languages. This vast lake, one of the oldest and deepest in the world, was a hub of activity, drawing people from far and wide. Bantu-speaking people, skilled farmers and artisans, settled in the fertile hills. They brought with them knowledge of agriculture, metalworking, and pottery, laying the foundations for a thriving society. They formed small communities, each with its own chief and customs. These communities were tight-knit, with everyone playing a role in the survival and prosperity of the group. Think of it as a neighborhood barbecue, but with spears instead of spatulas. These gatherings were not just social events, but also opportunities to discuss important matters and resolve conflicts. Then, around the 16th century, things started to get interesting. The small communities began to unite under powerful leaders, leading to the formation of larger political entities. A powerful kingdom emerged, ruled by a king known as the Mwami. This title was not just a symbol of power but also a mark of divine favor, believed to be bestowed by the gods. This wasn't just any ordinary king, mind you. The Mwami wielded immense power and was revered by his subjects. He was seen as both a political and spiritual leader, kind of like a combination of the Queen of England and Oprah. His word was law, and his presence commanded respect and awe. The Mwami and his descendants ruled over a centralized kingdom, expanding their territory and influence. They established a system of governance that balanced power and ensured stability. They had a complex social hierarchy, a bit like a high school cafeteria, but with less gossip and more royal decrees. This structure helped maintain order and facilitated the kingdom's growth. The kingdom thrived on agriculture, cattle herding, and trade, becoming a force to be reckoned with in the Great Lakes region. Their agricultural practices were advanced, and their trade networks extensive. But like any good story, there were twists and turns ahead. The kingdom faced numerous challenges that tested its resilience and adaptability. Internal power struggles, competition for resources, and the ever-present threat of neighboring kingdoms kept things interesting. These conflicts often led to shifts in power and changes in leadership. It was a time of both prosperity and conflict, laying the foundation for the Burundi we know today. The legacy of these ancient kingdoms can still be seen in the cultural and social fabric of modern Burundi. Hold on tight, folks, because the story's about to take a bit of a dark turn. We're diving into a chapter of history that's both fascinating and tragic, filled with lessons that echo through time. Like many African nations, Burundi wasn't immune to the clutches of European colonialism. The late 19th century was a period of intense competition among European powers, each eager to expand their empires and exploit new territories. It all started in the late 19th century when the scramble for Africa was in full swing. European nations convened at the Berlin Conference in 1884 to 1885, where they drew arbitrary borders, often with little regard for the existing ethnic and cultural landscapes. European powers, like kids in a candy store, were busy carving up the continent for themselves. They saw Africa as a treasure trove of resources and an opportunity to assert their dominance on the global stage. Germany, with its eye on East Africa, decided Burundi would make a nice addition to its collection. They were particularly interested in the region's fertile land and strategic location. Now you can imagine this didn't sit well with the Burundian people. They had their own systems of governance, rich cultural traditions, and a deep connection to their land. They'd been running their own show for centuries, thank you very much, and weren't too keen on taking orders from some guys who'd just stepped off a boat. The imposition of foreign rule was met with resistance and resentment. But Germany, with its superior firepower and insatiable appetite for resources, took control of Burundi, along with neighboring Rwanda. The colonizers imposed their will through military might and administrative control. They called it German East Africa, which, let's be honest, doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. This new colonial entity was marked by exploitation and oppression. Colonial rule was a time of significant change and upheaval. Traditional ways of life were disrupted, and the landscape of Burundi was forever altered. The Germans, in their infinite wisdom, decided to exploit Burundi's resources and people for their own gain. They established plantations and forced local populations into labor. They introduced cash crops like coffee, which sounds nice until you realize it often displaced traditional farming practices. This shift had profound impacts on local food security and economic stability. This period also saw the strengthening of ethnic divisions, a tactic often employed by colonizers to divide and conquer. By exacerbating existing tensions, they aimed to weaken unified resistance. The seeds of future conflicts were sown, leaving a bitter taste in the mouths of many Burundians. The legacy of colonialism would haunt the nation for generations to come, shaping its history in profound and often painful ways.
Fast forward to the 20th century, and the winds of change were blowing across Africa. The continent, rich in culture and history, was awakening to a new era. The echoes of colonial rule were being challenged by the voices of those who yearned for freedom and self-determination. The struggle for independence was gaining momentum, with nations rising up to reclaim their freedom. From the north to the south, east to west, the spirit of liberation was infectious, inspiring countless movements and uprisings. Burundi, too, yearned to break free from the shackles of colonialism. The people of Burundi, with their rich traditions and deep sense of identity, were determined to chart their own course. After World War I, Germany, having lost its taste for global domination, temporarily anyway, was forced to relinquish its African colonies. The war had reshaped the world, and Africa was no exception. The reallocation of territories was a significant moment in the continent's history. Burundi, along with Rwanda, was placed under Belgian rule as a League of Nations mandate. This new colonial power brought its own set of challenges and dynamics to the region. Now you might think trading one colonial master for another wouldn't make much difference. The reality, however, was more complex. Each colonial power had its own methods and policies, impacting the lives of the local populations in different ways. And you'd be right to some extent. The hardships and exploitation continued, albeit under a different flag. The daily lives of the Burundian people were still marked by the struggles of living under foreign rule. While the Belgians weren't exactly handing out free waffles and chocolates, their approach to colonialism was slightly different. They implemented policies that were aimed at maintaining control while attempting to integrate their own systems and structures. They focused more on indirect rule, propping up the existing monarchy and governing through local chiefs. This strategy allowed them to exert influence without direct interference in every aspect of daily life. It was a cunning strategy, maintaining control while giving the illusion of autonomy. The local leaders were often caught in a delicate balance, trying to serve their people while under the watchful eye of the colonial administration. But don't be fooled, the Belgians were still calling the shots. The real power lay with the colonial officials, who made the key decisions and enforced policies that served their interests. Despite the challenges, Burundians never gave up hope of independence. The spirit of resistance was alive and well, with many risking their lives to fight for a future free from foreign domination. Nationalist movements emerged, demanding self-determination and an end to foreign rule. These movements were fueled by a deep sense of injustice and a burning desire for freedom. The call for Uhuru, freedom in Swahili, echoed across the hills. It was a rallying cry that united people from all walks of life,
transcending ethnic and social divides. Finally, on July 1, 1962, the day arrived. The long-awaited moment of independence was a time of immense joy and celebration. Burundi raised its flag high, a symbol of hope and a testament to the unwavering spirit of its people. The flag represented not just a new nation, but the dreams and aspirations of generations. Independence had been won, but the journey was far from over. The road ahead was filled with challenges, but the people of Burundi were ready to face them, armed with the spirit of Uhuru and a vision for a brighter future.